Trader Kane, for those of you that don't know, is one of the top two biggest payouts on Apex. Late last year, he almost made a $2 million payout, and since then, he's gone on to trade live accounts, 100K to 1 mil. So this guy's like pretty high up there in terms of proven profitability. He has this model that I've kind of looked at a bunch of different videos, scrolled through his X, tried to identify as much as I could for his strategy. So we're going to be going over it today. It involves trading pretty low time frames on NQ specifically after inversions, kind of around key levels, both for reversals and then also for continuations. So I shared the link in the chat for those of you watching it live. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, it'll be in the description. So yeah, let's dive into it. So this is Trader Kane's NQ trading strategy, aka the lab model. He's got a trading group, the lab. Obviously, if you want to go to the source, I've picked up as much as I can from totally free, publicly available info, but I'm sure there's maybe a few nuances that you might be able to get if you really want to explore it a little more. So we'll start with some of the core kind of educational components for the strategy. And the first one is kind of how he uses premium and discounts in combination with what he calls LLT or logical liquidity targets. So a lot of people, if you see an ICT, will use premium and discount to say, okay, you don't want to take longs unless you're in discount. You don't want to take shorts unless you're in premium. But he actually uses the premium and discount for targets, kind of expecting that over time, more often than not, price is going to rebalance into these zones. And so he has this LLT, you'll see me mark in the charts. It's just a logical liquidity target, basically the first low back in discount or the first high back in premium. And this is his primary take profit that he uses for his kind of reversal trades. And then just to visualize kind of what does a balanced range versus unbalanced look like, you can kind of see here, as I've drawn on the charts, this first kind of move has already rebalanced to the midpoint. Again, we had a push down, it rebalanced. However, this third leg down has not yet come back to the midpoint, so you would expect at some point that price is going to rebalance. And this is fractal. He charts these on the 4-hour time frame, 1-hour time frame, 5-minute time frame. He's generally looking for the kind of most recent move on the low time frame, but he uses the higher time frame premium and discounts that are not balanced yet in terms of like his draw on liquidity. A couple other things. So there's not a whole lot of complications to the strategy. You're going to need some SMT divergence, which is just a price deviation between correlated assets. Again, if you aren't familiar with this, there's a whole video on quarterly theory I did a while back where you can really learn a lot more about this. But it's basically just between ES and NQ, and in this case, one of them making a lower high, one of them make a higher high, or vice versa if you're looking for a long. And then lastly, he uses inverse fair value gaps. Pretty well-known concept we've gone over a few times, but it's basically fair value gap that's established with non-overlapping candles, and then price closes kind of back through it. So let's dive into the strategy specifics. He pretty much only trades NQ. He'll use the ES for that SMT analysis. We're gonna draw the premium discount on maybe 4-hour, 1 hour, and then also 5 minutes. He trades this on the 1, 3, 5, and 15 minutes. So we're gonna have to be changing time frames a little bit, just kind of depending which one, which inverse fair value gap do you like the best. And then in terms of the best trading window, I've seen him trade this in London session, in PM session. Like, he trades kind of all over the place, but the best window that I've seen him talk about, and also from my own testing, is this 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern window. After the kind of 4-hour candle closes at 10 a.m., that's kind of when the best opportunities present, especially for the reversals. And then, that's kind of when the core volume is for these indices as well. So you're going to have more volume and more liquidity for these moves. And so there's really two types of entry triggers with his model, one of which is a reversal, which, as you can kind of see here, just to kind of see what it looks like, we have that premium discount that has not yet rebalanced. We expect price to come back up and kind of tag this midpoints. So we kind of look on our lower time frames, try to identify some SMT. And again, one thing I forgot to mention, this is going to be after the kind of 4-hour candle closes at 10 a.m. So you're looking for a sweep of that 10 a.m. low, in this case, on either asset, followed by SMT and inverse fair value gap. You're going to enter once you have those two things, stop at the recent low or the SMT invalidation. You can do either one, and we'll target that logical liquidity target for our take profits. For the continuations, it's going to be a little more nuanced, but just to kind of walk you through what's going on here. We have our high time frame premium and discount that has not yet balanced. So we expect price to come and kind of balance this midpoint at least at some point. We've had a low time frame range that has already balanced. So kind of from this high to this low, we've already rebalanced into this area, and we still expect price to come lower based on the high time frame range. So we have a balanced low time frame range, but an unbalanced high time frame range. And so kind of same model. We're looking for that SMT, the inverse fair value gap, kind of targeting out either. You can even target the low logical liquidity target of just this move. You can target a continuation down to like a new low, or you can even target the high time frame midpoint. There's a little more flexibility, and the great thing with FX replays, our simulator will be able to like see what is the best level to hold out these trades, whether it's the reversal or the continuation. But he predominantly just goes for those base hits to the logical liquidity targets. In terms of stop loss, take profit, trade management, we've got a couple examples from his chart. He will generally use the most recent high or low as his stop. I have seen every now and then he'll use the overall high, but most often he'll use kind of the most recent high as his stop loss. Generally, we'll use a limit order on kind of the retest of the inverse fair value gap. It kind of depends on the order, which happens first, the inversion versus SMT. But from my own experience, if price is really coming fast through that inversion, you can potentially use a stop limit as well. So we might do that a couple times. Take profit, like I said, we've looked at that logical liquidity target. And then trade management is one thing that I tried to really find as many examples as I could. And to be honest, his break-even method is very discretionary. He talks about 15-minute lows if the trade has gone in your favor always, and so it's pretty discretionary. And so if you really want a mechanical definition for trade management to try and still use his break-even methodology, just go break-even halfway once it gets halfway to your take profit. And again, we can take a look after the fact with the RR simulator and see like is it actually good to go break-even or not. And this is actually how he draws an example from his charts. You can kind of see in this example, we had that inversion, but we didn't have SMT yet. So the SMT actually came second in this case, but we could still use that same iFVG as our entry, just targeting out this kind of first low on the other side of the discount for the take profits. So a few other rules and considerations before we look at a few more examples. Like I said, if the SMT divergence happens first and you're seeing a really strong push down, like this is a case where maybe you wouldn't have gotten a retest, but you could use a potential stop order if you're seeing price like starting to really aggressively reverse. It's something you can consider, and especially do some testing. If you're seeing a lot of trades that you're missing, that might be something to add. If the SMT happens second, like in this case, you can just reuse the inversion from earlier instead of looking for a new one. He doesn't usually combine the fair value gaps if there's like multiple candles in a row, but this is where it's going to be kind of up to you to choose. Do I want to use the 1 minute, the 3 minute, or the 5 minutes? And sometimes if there's like multiple 1 minute fair value gaps, maybe there's also one on the 3 minute or the 5 minute, and that might be a better level for you to use. And then lastly, he mentions, obviously he's predominantly going for these base hits, but as you do some more optimizations, you may find that you can, use some sort of trailing stop loss optimization after the take profit to try and hold your winners longer. So let's look at a few examples. I've got the checklist kind of laid out for you guys, both for the reversals and the continuations, but let's look at a couple of specific examples. And I tried to show kind of different charts for what this looks like. So in this first example, we are looking at a reversal, targeting that kind of low time frame rebalance. So here's your 1 hour chart. We have NQ with this big range right here that is not rebalanced. You expect price to kind of come back, and so we're looking for shorts. In this case, we had NQ kind of sweep the kind of previous 4 hour high, 4 hour reversal, and then on the 5 minute, you can kind of see here we had the SMT. We have that logical liquidity target for a rebalance of this kind of recent leg. Even though the 1 hour midpoint is much further, he's just going for that simple base hit because that's the 1 hour midpoint is not guaranteed on this specific session. And so drilling down to now the 1 minute time frame for execution, you can see we have that SMT. We have a fair value gap here that reversed once this candle closed below it. We entered on a retest with a stop at the high and just simply targeted out the logical liquidity target. I think this was like a 1.5 R trade right here. Another example for continuation. So is actually the same range. The next day we had still at 1 hour 1 hour range that had not yet balanced. So we're still expecting this to rebalance at some point. Price doesn't generally continue until these ranges rebalance. So we're looking for that draw to the downside. And then on the 5-minute time frame, you can kind of see we have rebalanced kind of this recent range right here. It's a little hard to see, but from this high to this low, we have come back to the midpoint. So we've rebalanced this low time frame range. And then now on the 1-minute time frame, you can kind of see a little more detail. We had higher highs created on ES with lower highs on NQ. So that's our SMT. His first trade, I think, was actually break even. We had the inverse fair value gap after following the SMT. So we entered here, and I think I went break even, got tagged break even, and then a little later on we had another attempt. Same thing, SMT, inverse fair value gap. In this one, we targeted out a new continuation. There's a lot of relative equal lows down here. So that kind of shows you an example for the reversal and the continuation. So let's check over to iFVG replay and actually do some live backtesting. And I want someone in the chat give me a date in the last 3 years. I want you guys to tell me when to backtest this. I've already done some testing, but we'll do a stream, and I'm curious. I want a date from you guys to let me know when you guys want me to backtest. So, all right. So we have the start date, we get the end dates, and I'll create the session. I'll get my kind of chart set up here, and you can see I have ES on the left, NQ on the right. I'm gonna make a copy of this layout so I have it for the stream with no drawing tools. So I'll get this saved. I'll delete all my previous drawings. So we got totally fresh charts. And then the only indicators I have FX Replay's fair value gap indicator. It's going to show me all these fair value gaps. And I turned off the mitigate boxes tags so that I can still see them after they've been filled. It's going to be helpful to identify. And then I just threw on the session indicator New York by FX Replay just to show me that kind of 10-to-1 window with the New York session lines to make sure I try not to trade outside of that window. And I turned off pretty much everything else, just made the opacity 0 for that. It's really the only indicators that I have for this. Again, he really only refers to ES for that SMT divergence. So I'll actually make that screen a little smaller. And yeah, let's kind of dive into some high time frame analysis. So we have, and I'll show you a couple other settings too before I get started. So I have used the Fib retracement tool to kind of draw these how he does. So just a quick kind of overview how I have these set. So you have 0, 0.5, and 1. The 1 you're going to set to red, the 0.5 you're going to set to green. Turn the opacity down on all of them, and then just turn the background down about here, and you'll get that similar premium discount as he draws it in his examples that I showed you guys. So we have that, and then after it's gotten rebalanced, I've just kind of started using, like, basically simplifying it so that it doesn't have the shaded areas. So we'll be using those, and then yeah, we'll get started. So we have coming in this day, we have a big impulse on the 4-hour time frame that has yet to rebalance. So at some point, we expect price to kind of come back here and rebalance this high time frame range. Looking into the 1-hour time frame, we kind of have pretty much the same range. There was a smaller one here that also hasn't rebalanced. So pretty much this entire leg, we would expect some sort of rebalance at some point. And so we're looking for shorts coming into the day. Let me actually go to the next day because I started this on January 24th. So go to the next session. We have our areas that we've marked out. We're still expecting price to rebalance at this point. It looks like this may actually be a nice kind of combination of continuation plus the 1-hour reversal. So we have our draw to the downside. We have now a kind of low time frame range. And I'll show you the 5-minute time frame just so you guys can see a little better. Reset chart. So we have our kind of recent 5-minute range that we have kind of rebalanced at this point. Price is already kind of retraced into this, and so we can look for continuation down, expecting price to kind of come and rebalance this higher time frame level. So coming into this session, we want to see two things: SMT divergence and inverse fair value gap. So I'm looking for between ES and NQ, I'm looking for one of them to maybe make a new high and the other doesn't. And then at that point, I'll kind of make sure we have the inversion as well. So you can play around with whatever time frame you want. Again, this is going to be where a little bit of discretion comes in place for this model in terms of, what time frame do you prefer to use. a lot of people don't like jumping around time frames. So if you have a hard time with that, you can just backtest a singular time frame, whether that's a 1 minute, 3 minute, or 5 minutes. But he generally jumps around, so I'm going to try my best to do the same. But let's see if we can maybe take out these highs on ES and not on NQ. That's potential SMT right there. So ES is now taking these high, but NQ is not. So I'm going to kind of start looking for potential inversions at this point, expecting that NQ is not going to come and take out this high. So we have this potential SMT, and I usually just use this kind of red line to draw out the SMT. It may continue a little further before we get the inversion, but that's kind of the first piece that we need to see. So we're continuing higher, and right off the bats we have an inversion on the 1 minute time frame. So 1 minute is probably what I'm going to use today. There's also a 3 minute fair value gap that might increase probability a little bit, but we have the SMT. We have an inversion on 1 minute, so I'm going to go ahead and give this one a shot because we have everything we need. So we have this inverse fair value gap. We can enter on a retest with a stop at the high, and then let's see where our kind of logical liquidity target is for this most recent move. We're expecting continuation in this case, like I said, because we have a low time frame range that has balanced. Right here, we had a low time frame that balanced. Let me just make this the templates, balanced. But we have a high time frame that has yet to balance, and so we can look for kind of the midpoint of this recent move would be kind of potential target 1 we could look for. So if I use this most recent range right here, we could look for potential logical liquidity target at this low after the discount. And that looks like it's honestly going to give us a pretty good risk to reward just by itself. Yeah, that's like almost a 5.5 hour trade. So I would probably personally just be fine even going for this low right here. It's pretty close to the discount. So I honestly might just go for that kind of low hanging fruit. It's very, very close to the discount right there. So we'll mark that out as our kind of logical liquidity targets, templates, LLT. But again, for these continuations, you could also potentially trail expecting these lows to get taken out as well. But we'll go for the simple kind of base hit for now with the 3R potential trade. This is going to be a continuation. So I use the FX replay tags so that when I go in the analytics later, I'll be able to see the difference between the continuations and reversals, so I can get additional insights. I'm looking for continuation if we retrace into here. So unfortunately, the first trade was a loss. Again, like I said, the 3 minute fair value gap right here, it's probably going to be a little higher probability, but I saw the inversion on the 1 minute and I was okay taking that. So he basically takes like 2 attempts max per session, whether that's break-even trades, losses. I think he's pretty much done after win usually, so we'll use kind of the same methodology there. So see if we can find another potential attempt with this while we still preserve our SMT. So this SMT is no longer valid because now both pairs have made new highs. So now I need to kind of restart, reframe, look for that SMT, look for that version. I'm not looking for anything until I see that SMT. So we have potential SMT here now, and this takes a little while to train your eye, but we have a lower high on ES and a higher high on NQ. And let's see if we have any fair value gaps. I might use a 3 minutes because we have like 3 1 minute fair value gaps in a row right here. So I'll go for 3 minute on this one. So we had this fair value gap right here, SMT right here, templates, SMT, and this is going to be my last attempt today. If this inverts, obviously, that's kind of the first thing that needs to happen. Okay, huge inversion. This might just take off without us, to be honest. This is where, looking on the 1 minute, we were seeing a very, very aggressive kind of move to the downside, starting with this after the SMT showed up. So this is where you could do one of two things. You could either look to use a stop limit order to sell as soon as this inverse fair value gap is inverted, or you can use, what's the other thing? Or you could look for a closure on the 1 minute time frame. Because right here, I think we had, this basically candle right here closed pretty much right at the low of the inverse fair value gap. So we may not be able to catch this if we look for a limit order. We'll see if we can. To see if we can catch it, but this one might take off without us, unfortunately. Let's see if we can catch a kind of retrace right here. So place order. This is a continuation. This is my second attempt for this, and we'll see if we can catch it. Otherwise, it might take off without. Okay, great. We got tagged in, and then this is a 2.55 hour trade. So I didn't put it in the settings, but I'll probably go break even about 1.26 hour. Basically, if a new low gets created after here. So let's see. We're almost there, 1.2R, not quite, a little bit lower. If I can get a little bit more, I'll go break even. Okay, so I'll probably go break even now. We've gone roughly half the way to our take profits. So again, just kind of mechanically trying to protect our assets with the break-even method. So risk-free trade now. It's either going to come to our TP or come back break-even. Got really close to our break-even. Unfortunately, tagged us at break-even. So one loss, one break-even this day. I'm probably not going to force anything else. It looks like there's still some kind of resistance to go higher. So we'll just go to the next session. It could, potentially play out, but I've taken my kind of 2 attempts for the day. I don't want to overtrade. And so I'll just go to the next session and we'll reset the chart view. Take a look at what happened. So we had the right idea. We were just a little bit early. It looks like it made kind of one more leg higher before kind of coming and repricing in there. Again, you can kind of play around with how many trades you want to take. I think 2 trades is generally what I would recommend starting out, so that you're not, taking too many losses in a row. If you're getting break even, it's a good indication that price just wants to go a little bit further. So you could potentially have a rule no more than 2 losses in a day. So we maybe could have still caught this. We'll go ahead and chart it just so you guys can see what it actually would have looked like if we had stuck around a little bit longer. So it ended up hitting our break even. We had a new high created here on NQ that ES did not create. So ES created a lower high at the same points. Oh, sorry, right here. Yeah, so ES made a lower high. We had an inverse fair value gap here on the 3 minutes. And kind of same thing. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Reset chart view. Oh, let me go back. So we had the inverse fair value gap and kind of same thing, could have targeted this low for about a 2.88R trade if we'd stuck around for one more. So I'm not going to go back and re-record it. I decided to stop after 2 trades, but just showing you guys this is basically what the model would have looked like if we stuck around for one more attempt. So kind of fast forward back to where we are today and see where we're at. So same, honestly, draw. 1 hour time frame has still not rebalanced to the downside. We are still expecting potential continuation here at some points. Let's see if our most recent range has rebalanced yet. So from this high to this low, have we rebalanced? Yes, we have. Price came, these logical liquidity targets are great. So price has come and rebalanced this range. So we can kind of look for the same thing, continuation, expecting downside on this day. We might have the wrong bias, but that's kind of the basis of the model, is to try and, catch those price to rebalance. So we'll see if we can get price to ideally take out kind of this high on ES or NQ. So I'll kind of play things forward and start looking for potential SMT. It might just run to this this low, and this is also fine. But I'm going to see if I can find some potential SMT, which we have right here. Okay. So I started on the 5-minute time frame because I was looking for kind of one to make a clear high when the other didn't. And I'm kind of dropping to 1 minute for execution. Hopefully that was a little more clear. I'll change this high time frame, 5-minute range to balanced, so it's a little less in our way. And now we're again, this continuation, looking for price to maybe come back to this low right here. You could potentially target even lower if you want, but we'll kind of look for just a base hit down to this low right here. Low liquidity. All right. And then let's see what we have on the 1 minute time frame. We have this SMT right here, but it's not too far away, so this could be invalidated. But we do have the SMT between ES making a higher high here and NQ making a lower high. We also have a nice fair value gap here that inverted on the 1 minute time frame. We may not get an inversion here. Let's see if there's a lot of fair value gaps in a row right here. So just from my own experience, when you see cases like this, I do think this is going to be a little lower probability because you're kind of shorting directly into some support from all these fair value gaps. It's going to be generally a little bit better if you have kind of a more like trendline liquidity from kind of resting lows along the way. So that's just like an observation I've seen myself. I don't think he specifically has an invalidation that I've seen from this, but it's something that I think you can definitely maybe add some tags if you, or maybe even just require that trendline liquidity, because it's definitely going to improve your win rate for sure. This is going to be a super tight stop if I use this kind of fair value gap right here. It's only like a 48 pip stop, targeting this low. This is probably a too aggressive trade, to be honest. So I'd rather look for at least a 3-minute fair value gap to get inverted before I take this one, just to give myself a little more odds. So I'll stick at the 3-minute time frame and see if we can invert this. Okay, we've now invalidated this SMT, and so again, this is the which fair value gap to use is definitely a discretionary part of his model. It's something that he definitely has an edge in terms of drawing this. You can tell this 1-minute fair value gap was super small. That's potentially also something you could look for. Are these fair value gaps too, if they're too small, is a lower probability versus ones that are bigger? Just something you can play around with. But I stuck to 3-minute and we invalidated this SMT. So now I'm looking for additional or new SMT essentially. So one of them to make a new high and the other doesn't, which we have right here. So NQ made a new high right here, which I'll mark right here. ES did not. And let's see if we have any fair value gaps. We have a couple of 1-minute fair value gaps here. I might just combine these because I don't think we have any on the 3 minutes. But personally, I'll just kind of add these together. He doesn't often combine them, but I do. So I'm just going to give that a shot for now. Okay, we didn't invert it and we got SMT invalidated, so I'm going to delete this SMT. You need both. You need the SMT and you need the inversion. So we'll wait kind of for both of them to play out. No SMT yet. We don't have any SMT. Even though we did invert this fair value gap, we don't have the SMT yet. We could potentially come back and use this later if we get SMT after the fact. So I'm kind of watching price now to see where do we form any potential SMT. We honestly might just miss this one if it doesn't give us our specific criteria for entry. Okay, here we go. So it's going to take a little while to train your eyes to this, but we have a higher high on NQ right here and a lower high on ES. And now we have closed back through this inversion. So we can use this same inverse fair value gap that we were looking at earlier as our kind of entry point. I'll probably use this recent high up here as my stop. Just give myself a little more buffer instead of this super tight one. It's not even through the inverse fair value gap. And then my take profit, I might just look for the rebalance of this move now that we've pushed up pretty high. So looking at this premium and discounts, maybe look at the kind of low time frame for this. Might just use honestly this 1-minute candle low right here, kind of in discounts, might just be good enough for the base hit. So that's where I target for my take profit. It's over 3R, which I'm super happy with. So place the order here. I'll do auto break even after about 1.5R, kind of halfway to my take profits. Again, continuation, because we're looking for that continuation move down. And let's see what happens. Not the best start. Okay, we're still, okay, super close to our take profit. And so this is just another good thing I want to mention to you guys that he does mention in some of his videos. For futures, you have super tight, what am I saying, bid versus ask. And so you can get very close to your stop loss without getting tagged out. If you are trading CFDs, you're going to need to allow for some slippage. So whether that's, bumping up your stop loss a little bit further than the higher low that he would use on futures, you can play around with that. But for futures, the nice advantage is you can definitely kind of use that to your advantage. So we've made a new low. We barely saved ourselves a loss. So I'm probably going to go ahead and lock in the break even at this point. We've gone up, not quite yet, actually 1.17R. I'm going to get a little bit lower first. There we go. Break even now that we're halfway to our take profits. So it's either a win or a break even at this point. Unfortunately, got tagged out break even. Let's see what would have happened if we let it play out. Okay, saved us from a loss. So we got break even, and there might actually be a second entry right here. Let me go back a couple candles right there. So we got tagged out break even on this first attempt, and now we have kind of the same footprint. NQ made a higher high right here, which is the SMT. ES made a lower high, so we still have the SMT. We have a new inversion here on the 1-minute time frame. Let's see if there's any better ones. 3-minute has one here, so I'll probably just use the 3-minute. They're pretty much on both time frames, so I might as well stick to the higher time frame for a little higher probability. So I'll give this another shot. Looking for shorts, still targeting that same low, and we'll say this is a continuation. An attempt. And see what we can catch with this one. See if we can get tagged in. We may not. Okay, got tagged in. Okay, made a new low. Let's see are we halfway to our take profit yet? Just about. Again, I'm gonna go break even just to preserve capital. I guess this is something we'll find out with the risk reward simulator if it's better to do that or not. But let's see if this one rides out. Nice, take profit. So one break even and one win on this day. Again, the break even worked in this case. Got tagged out of this first trade, saved us from a loss, but we had another opportunity to enter. So got a really nice 3.5 hour on this trade within that kind of 10 to 11 window. And again, this is where you could potentially start trailing your stop loss. There's a lot of different trailing stop loss methods I go over. There's a video how to optimize your trading models on the Discord, and also just on the YouTube, the trading tips channel. There's like 3 different trailing stop losses I go over, but you could definitely consider trailing this. You could potentially catch even further if you held this out a little bit longer. So instead of the 3.48 hour, we could have potentially caught up to 7.5 hour on this trade if you used kind of a trailing stop loss. So really happy with that win. We'll go to the next session, see if we can find some more. So 1 hour time frame. Honestly, still the same thing. The only thing that I'm starting to see now is we have some SMT kind of against our direction now. So this is from my own testing. So I look at SMT Divergence quite a bit in my own trading, and I'm seeing we have some bullish SMT between Friday and Sunday. So this is daily SMT. It's a quarterly theory concept. NQ made a lower low here, whereas ES made a higher low. So I think this is also, Kenny, you're asking about kind of confluences that would increase or decrease probabilities. If you're trading against SMT Divergence, that's definitely also going to be a lower probability condition. So whether we want to still try and take it, I would personally just rather wait for a better condition that doesn't have that. But that's something that I'm noticing. To be honest, I don't really want to force a trade this day, like I said, because we're trading against this SMT. I honestly would kind of prefer if we established a new range. Maybe ES comes and takes out these relative equal highs and NQ fails too. That would be a much better case for me. So personally, using a little discretion, I'm probably just going to skip this day because we still have the high time frame draw to the downside, but I'm really not loving the kind of high time frame SMT against us, and so I'd rather just kind of go to the next session. As you saw, this SMT kind of forced price to the upside and did exactly what I was talking about. We have now kind of re-established the bearish SMT in our favor, with ES taking out these previous highs, whereas NQ has failed to. So now I feel much more comfortable kind of going for this draw to the downside, now that we're kind of back in alignment with the high time frame SMT. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated for you guys. Just showing you guys kind of my thought process with that. So I want to kind of look for a potential reversal in this case. Let's see, we have our kind of 4 hour range. We have a new 4 hour range here that is yet to rebalance. So I think like targeting this kind of low right here would be, or sorry, this midpoint would be a really nice, even just candle low right here would be a really good low logical liquidity targets on the high time frame. And so I'm going to mark out this 4 hour candle high on both assets. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So I've used this kind of high time frame higher low to mark out the kind of 4 hour highs. And again, ES could potentially take out all these highs and NQ fails too. That would also be a good indication. So my idea for the day is we hopefully get some sort of SMT off these highs, even maybe all of these highs, and then kind of come back and rebalance this range. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, or aiming for this specific day. So we'll play it out and see what happens. Unfortunately, decided to just totally dump on us the first 5 minutes. There could have been a potential news that happened here. Let me turn on the news real quick. Feature. There was, what was this? A jobs opening report. Okay. So unfortunately, the news just nuked us right to our take profits with this. It's going to happen sometimes. I think, it's pretty risky to trade the news itself. The model did technically present. We had ES take out the high for the SMT, whereas NQ failed. There really wasn't a great inversion on the 1 minute time frame. Like maybe even these guys like way back here. So the only way you could have caught this is with like a stop limit order just at these lows. But again, this is happening like within like probably 10 seconds or something like that. So this isn't like a realistic trade you could catch. But just showing we had the right bias with the model, even though we weren't able to catch the trade. So I'm probably not going to force anything else. We have rebalanced this range now. Potentially, if we see any ranges here, we could potentially look for a continuation. But the problem with looking for a continuation off this rebalance is we don't have a high time frame range to rebalance into. We actually have a high time frame range down here that has yet to be rebalanced to the downside. And so taking a continuation in this case is going to be lower probability because we don't really have that high time frame range. Like all of these ranges is balanced, like this low, this high has rebalanced. This range right here has balanced. So pretty much along the way here, we have kind of rebalanced even just this most recent range rebalanced right there. So there's really nothing drawing us higher to rebalance at this point. So even though price could come back up, I'm not going to take a continuation off this rebalance because we don't have anything else to balance into. So again, I'm probably just going to go to the next day and see if I can find something a little bit better. Maybe Kane trades this with different criteria, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. So let's go to the next session. And as I mentioned, I had the right idea. I did not want to take a continuation off this low because we have this high time frame draw to the downside still, which is still in play actually. So now kind of what I would be interested in this case is if we have a continuation that rebalances this most recent range. So from this high to this, probably this low all the way down here. If we can rebalance this range, then I would be interested in a continuation back to the downside. We do again have the potential. This is a weekly SMT, it looks like. The previous week's low on ES we have not taken out yet, but we did on NQ. So again, this is at least something to be aware of. That may produce slightly lower conditions. If we rebalance, I would still be happy to take this. So I'm going to see just like within my kind of trading window, can we rebalance this range? If not, I'm probably just not going to trade, to be honest, because I want to see us kind of rebalance in here. So yeah, it's pretty far away. It might not happen this day specifically, but we can look for the same idea the next day to see if we can kind of rebalance this range and look for continuation to the downside. So it's outside of my kind of 10-to-1 trading window. Let's go to the next session. All right, so let's see. We didn't quite rebalance this range since the low was created. But let me see what's going on our higher time frames. Okay, so we did find so our high time frame draw has now been balanced. So this draw to the downside is no longer like valid. And so just to kind of visualize this, I use this like balanced range to say like, okay, I'm not really looking at this high time frame draw anymore. What I am actually interested is now this more recent leg. Since the new low was created, we have yet to rebalance. So I think this kind of high right here is a fantastic target for us to look for to potentially rebalance this most recent kind of high time frame range. And so let's see if we can either take out the kind of most recent 4-hour higher low, which is right here. So I'll mark out the 4-hour lows on both candles, templates, high time frame higher low. Or kind of second thing we could look for is, can we rebalance the recent range? I think we already have. So from this most recent impulse to the high, we rebalanced that one already. I think we've rebalanced both of these. Yeah, so both of these ranges are rebalanced. Let's see if we can get one of these pairs to sweep the recent 4-hour candle low and kind of look for a rebalance back up to this kind of high time frame high. So again, I'm looking for price to take a low. I might have should have stuck with the 1 minute there. So we had both of them take out the low. We don't have the SMT yet, so that's also okay. I'm still going to wait for that SMT. We have both pairs made a new low here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better. So both pairs made a new low. I need to see that SMT. It might not happen. Might just kind of take off without me. Was there any that I missed? Potentially on a higher time frame. No, there really wasn't any SMT right here. You'd have to get like really specific with this kind of interim low right here. It's not a super obvious SMT. So I probably personally would just say I missed this trade. It did, sweep that low in reverse like we expected, but we didn't have our specific criteria to enter. And yeah, there wasn't any super obvious SMT unless you get again like super cute between these like two candles. But I wouldn't personally mark that. I like to see like the obvious SMT. So we could potentially look for the same concept if this recent impulse to the upside kind of comes back, rebalances, we could potentially have another chance. So I'll see if we can find kind of that play outs. All right, so that this could potentially still work out for us. So this most recent range right here, from this high to the low, we have now rebalanced this local range. So kind of same thing, looking for that SMT, looking for the inversion, which you might have right here. So clear low right here on ES that we made a lower low. and the same low on NQ, we failed to make a new low. So we have our SMT. We're looking for potential inversion. We've got a nice fair value gap right here on the 1 minute. 3 minutes, we also have a fair value gap. Again, this is going to be a discretion play. Which one do you want to use? I'm honestly probably fine using 1 minute because I missed the last trade and I want to catch this one. So if we get price closing above this, we got the inversion, but we're kind of taking off this one. And I'm probably just going to look for a new high in this case. Which gives us, it's only 1.28R actually. Let me see if I can extend this a little bit further. I want to at least like 2R. This is where his like power of 3 model, he said in multiple videos he trades the kind of power of 3 model. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, we often will use like the standard deviations of a manipulation leg for the targets. And I think he actually did that in this continuation example. He took profit at standard deviation 4. So maybe see if I can draw that out. I think I still have it saved. So we'll look back at this kind of previous manipulation leg we had earlier from the high to the low. I think I still have my unicorn fib. Let me see. I've got a lot of fibs saved out. PO3 fib. There we go. So I have these fibs from the high to the low of this previous manipulation move, and maybe we can just target out this 4 standard deviations. At least gives us more than that 2R. We may not come back and retrace, but that's kind of why I want to take it. So I'll place the order here. And this is where I'm actually going to use probably the 3 minutes because it's a little higher up. So it's more likely I'll get tagged into this one. So I'll place the order here. This is a continuation. See if we can get tagged in. We may not. All right, we got tagged in. Unfortunately, got a loss. So we made a new high on both pairs and unfortunately just kind of faded the move. This is like maybe another criteria you can consider. You have to test it to really optimize, but if you're using the limit orders and price goes, further than you would have got break even anyways. So we were looking for like a 2.6R. We've got about halfway there before we got tagged in. I have a sense that these trades are probably also going to be a little lower probability if they kind of make the move before they tag you in. So this could also be a potential disqualifying criteria. You can test it out, but we'll look for one more example. See if we can take kind of one more shot on this. We've got some time left in our trading window. So we have now, see if we can get NQ to take this low and ES not, or vice versa. Okay, so both of them took this low. We don't have the SMT in play. I don't think we have very, very minor SMT. I don't even know if I want to call this SMT. This isn't like a super clear low, but potentially could work out. It's clear on ES at least. So we have a slightly higher low there on ES relative to NQ. It's not as obvious as I'd like. I'd prefer if it was this low, but it is clear on ES at least. Let's see if we have any inverse fair value gaps. There's one here on the 3 minutes. So let's see if we can invert that. Okay, we are not inverting it yet. And now we have more clear SMT. So I like this a lot better. So we have a much clearer low on ES now and not on NQ. So same lows right here, higher low on NQ. And really nice 1 minute fair value gap. Right here we could look at potential inversion. So let's see if we can invert this. Nice. Really nice inversion. So I'll look to see if I can catch a retest on this. And again, it's probably going to go for the base hit on this in this specific case. From the high to the low of this most recent move, use Kane's premium discounts. If I can find the template. There we go. Where's our low? Probably this high right here. Before on the other side of discounts, it's like over 3R. So it's super happy with that. Place the order. This is going to be a continuation, second attempt. And see what we can catch. We got tagged in. Pretty much halfway to our, not quite halfway to our take profit. So using the mechanical definition, I want to see like, what was it going for? Like 1.6, just so we can get up there. Maybe I should have gone break even. Okay, now I'll go break even because we've gotten halfway to my take profits. So it's either going to be break even or a win at this point. Nice win. So again, the break even is super discretionary. Some people might have gone break even after we made a new high here. They would have gotten tagged out break even and had missed the trade. You potentially could have had a second entry right here. Let me just see if you would have got tagged up break even. Was there any SMT? I don't think there was. So you would have just missed this trade if you want break even. I decided not to, and I'm glad I did because I was able to catch the trade. So hopefully this shows you guys some framework on how to analyze this. It is a little bit more advanced with the kind of analyzing the ranges to decide, where is price expected to rebalance in terms of where my draw is. You can add in that layer of SMT divergence to potentially make things a little higher or lower probability. But let's take a look at the analytics. And again, not the hugest sample size. Only got through 14 trades, but you cannot complain about a 54% win rate with 3.14 R average take profit. If you look at kind of a most recent equity curve, super nice equity curve. We had 3 break-even trades out of the 14, so you're definitely going to have quite a few break-even trades with this model. Again, we're trading that higher probability window. I think if you were testing this in London or PM session, you might have a little lower win rate, but with a 3-to-1 risk to reward, you can get down to even the 40s and still have a nice equity curve. But I prefer to keep it above 50 if possible. So let's see if we can find any additional insights. We'll look at the risk to reward simulator in a second, but I'll filter it on New York time. Let's see if we can find any analytics about specific time windows or anything. Look at the tags real quick first. So continue. I didn't even know if I took any reversals during our testing today, but I did when I was testing a little earlier. I only took 5 trades with the reversals, but they were a little lower probability, and that's totally makes sense. Continuations are generally going to be higher probability. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. And so as we expect to see continuations, much higher probability. So again, if you really want to optimize and increase your win rate, you could potentially only take continuations with this model, especially if markets are really just kind of continuing to trend strongly instead of looking for constant reversals against that trend. Wait for the pullbacks and look to continue. That's definitely something you can try as well. So just some good insight there. And then in terms of the actual trading sessions, so we traded 10-to-1 essentially. Most of our profits came in that first window, but we also had some nice ones later in the day. I, again, didn't take that many trades, so can't really look at the performance by day too much, but as you get bigger sample size, you can really look to optimize this and kind of get more insights. Had some good testing, and let's look at the risk reward simulator now. So I would encourage you guys to check this out with the specific tags because the reversals may be different. Let me make sure I have all the trades, all 14 trades. Because the reversals may be different than the continuations. Again, this isn't going to be super helpful with the low sample size, but I just want to show you, walk you guys through my process that I would do. So I'd filter on the reversals, run the risk reward simulator. And, I took, 3.23 was my average. And it actually looks like from this very, very small sample size, if you just went for simple 1R base hits with no break even whatsoever, you would have, 80% win rate and actually, much higher profit factor specifically for the reversals. Again, this isn't necessarily saying this is how you should trade it, but I'm just showing you guys what you can use. The FX replays are simulators is awesome, and you can get a lot of insights from it. So same thing with the continuations. Let's see if they had any, potential insights we can see. So, very small sample size. So yeah, we have a pretty overfit profit factor here. I would expect as you get a larger sample size, you want to see that 1.75 to 4 profit factor is really the range you want to shoot for. But yeah, we had a really nice win rates with the continuations, and it's suggestion kind of the way we traded them was optimal based on the sample size. But as you guys get a larger sample size, I really encourage you. The risk reward simulator is awesome to test things out. So yeah, hopefully I gave you guys at least a good basis for this. Again, I am not in his the lab Discord. I looked at a bunch of YouTube videos, a bunch of trades on his X, a bunch of Reddit threads to try and find as much as I could, plus a little of my own insights trading a somewhat similar model. But hopefully this gave you guys at least a good framework to start testing this out and see if it's something you like. If you are someone that prefers London session over New York, you can definitely test this on assets that trade in London and Asia session, maybe gold or maybe some European indices instead. He obviously trades this on NQ predominantly, so that's obviously going to be great for those of you that trade New York session as well. But yeah, I hope you guys got a lot of value from this. Let me know if you have any other strategies you want to test out. If you have questions or anything, feel free to hop in the Discord and we can kind of chat about it. I'm curious if you guys start testing it, if you see more results, and yeah, maybe we'll see one of you guys in the future getting these big payouts as well. So we'll wrap it up with that, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. See you everyone. Bye.